Hello and welcome to Let's Talk About, a chat show on digital television, Facebook, and YouTube. As always, the handle is Trinity United Church, Legon. It's interesting, we have Captain Retired Andy Sam to talk with on the topic prospering in wealth. Captain, you are very much welcome.
Thank you, Ben.
And when we talk about prospering in wealth, what generally comes to mind, Captain?
There are two things come to mind. The worldly person will look at prospering in terms of material things. You know, the houses that you get. And a lot of times, when God blesses us with those things, we concentrate on those blessings. But the reality of prospering in wealth is really to do with God being with you, fulfilling God's purposes, and therefore God giving you the things that you need to be able to fulfill God's purposes. Because wealth on its own tends to lead you into various types of temptation. But when you're using the wealth for which God has given you to fulfill God's purposes, then it is the proper application of those kind of blessings.
So, Captain, would I be right in saying that wealth in this context has to do with all the things that God has endowed us with?
Absolutely. It's about time that God has given us, it's about talents that God has given us, it's about treasures. These are the three resources that everybody can relate to. We all have time, 24 hours a day, to do whatever it is that we have to do. How we use it is a different thing. For example, when you're looking at time in terms of prosperity, you're looking at it in terms of, you're spending maybe 8 hours at work, 2 hours going to work, 2 hours coming to work, 12 hours out of 24 hours. Really, where should you be fulfilling God's purpose in your life? It should be mainly to do where you spend most of your time.
And that's where?
Where you spend most of your time.
Okay.
The 8 hours, the 12 hours travel, and then the 8 hours, the 2 hours in 2 hours, that's 12 hours. If workplace is where you spend most of your day.
Oh, okay.
That's where you should be doing God's work.
So the workplace in this context as you are talking about, we will spend about 8 hours.
Well, that is what has been fixed.
Okay.
Some people spend
but then
more
you
than
made
that.
mention of the fact that we have to travel commute in and out from where we work. Which takes, in Accra, for instance, about 2 hours in,
Yep.
by and large.
Absolutely.
And 2 hours out from the workplace back.
Yeah.
So in effect, if you add the 4 to the 8 working hours, we have about 12.
That's half of the day.
Half of the day is gone.
Yes.
And you are supposed to spend another 8 hours
Sleeping. So you have 4 hours to do God's work.
Wow.
That's where God is going to ask you, why are you cheating me out of my time?
But we should be looking at being at the workplace, traveling in a vehicle to work, traveling in another vehicle back home, as all parts of the endowment God has given us.
Of course, you can fulfill God's purpose in those traveling to work, coming home from work. You can fulfill God's purpose.
So you do not say that because I haven't reached my workplace where I spend 8 hours and I'm in the trotro, you can behave any way that you think is right.
The harvest is plentiful. The workers are few. Every day, God puts in front of us people that we shall impact. Whether we are traveling, whether we are at work, or whether we are at leisure, whether we go to the market, it's there all the time. The opportunities to speak to people about God is there all the time. Question is, do we take it?
Because it's very important. The way you have explained it is much more widely expressed, so that you do not think of doing God's work in a certain context as only coming to church. In church these days, we are supposed even to spend just 2 hours.
Absolutely. Yep.
So, as you said, the places that we spend most of the time, we should also exhibit the prosperity in wealth, as we are discussing today, also in those places.
Absolutely.
Now, you mentioned time.
Yeah.
How well can we prosper in the wealth God has given us?
You see,
In terms of natural things that He's giving us. Like, let's first talk about time.
Yeah.
Time, yes.
You see, it's about, if you look at the creation story, All right, time is very important in the scheme of things. I have always come to understand that God can always increase material things, but time is something that God never increased. 6 days a week, 7 days a week has always been like that.
It's constant.
Has been constant. So the one who has the ability to use time faithfully and well is the one who is wealthy.
In terms of time.
Time. And many years ago, I did a seminar on the 30 ways to make time. It's the way you use time. And time in terms of, if you look at the creation story, the first 3 days, God spent creating infrastructure.
And which are these?
The sky, the sea, the land. Before he started putting the software, which is the animals. For 3.5 days, that's what God did. So you have to spend your time in a sequential manner. You know, the Greek have two words for time, chronos and kairos.
And the chronos is time.
Chronos is consequential, but kairos is opportune time, a moment, carpe diem, seizing the moment in doing things. There are certain things you can do when you are 10 years old, but you cannot do when you are 60.
Oh.
There are certain things you can do when you are 60. That's why if you look at the creation, God did not create man until the 6th day. It was the last thing that he did because he needed to create everything that man needed. Now, Ben, if you look at me and you and our life, is that the way we live our life? I do another presentation called the Life Roadmap where I explain all these things. You will see that we tend to put things, start something, and then we stop, and because it doesn't fit. And then we reach a cul-de-sac, then we come back, and then we start all over again. God did not do that.
Last week, Thursday, I was supposed to have a meeting with a friend. And I told him 8 o'clock. I said 8:30. No, I said 8 o'clock, please, we will meet at this point. I waited for about another 30 minutes. He wasn't showing up. So I left. I was on the way going home when he called. And I asked him why he couldn't turn up at 8 o'clock. He said, oh, traffic. Is that how well we can...
Anybody who uses traffic as an excuse, obviously is not serious. He doesn't really want to amend his ways. Look at the way we do our meetings. We are going to have it like tonight. Yeah. We've been praying about this evening. We are going to start at 7 o'clock. Then you and I, any of us comes late. Meanwhile, the Holy Spirit, we have an appointment with the Holy Spirit. That opening prayer is at 7 o'clock. Then we come at 7:30. I'll leave you to judge exactly the situation that we put ourselves in.
So that's where I clearly see that we aren't going to prosper in wealth as far as time is concerned.
It's lack of faith. Exactly.
It means we are going to crash other things up.
You are not even that, but you see, you have told the Holy Spirit you are going to be at this place, and you want him to be there, and he comes there, and you are not there.
It's a breach of faith.
If he has blessings to give a shower, won't he take it away?
I was in a church one Sunday. I was asked to come and play the keyboard in a church, and I was told it starts at 7 o'clock in the morning, Sunday. I was there 7 a.m., 7:15, and I saw the pastor chatting with someone. So I went to ask, please, is the church supposed to start at 7 o'clock as you announced to me to come here? He said, oh, the people haven't come. I said, Pastor, but we have a contract with our God to start at 7 o'clock.
Yes.
So please, for me, I couldn't have afforded coming late.
Yeah.
Because other people could afford coming late. Mm-hmm. If I'm coming here to play the keyboard at 7 and do not turn up, it's a disaster. Yeah. So also, could we please start? And so he walked to the lectern and we started. And any time that they invited me to that place, they know I'll be there, and they have to start on time. Yeah. That way, we are prospering in the wealth of time God has given us. Absolutely. And we can maximize time in that way, rather than having a kind of a crash all the time. Yeah.
So there is a talent aspect of it. Okay. There's a treasures aspect of it. Okay. You see, and the key thing about, I came to understand prosperity when I read the story. I studied Joseph when I was doing a series on excellence, as Joseph being the quintessential person of excellence. And when you read Genesis 39, it says that Joseph was prosperous. And I said, how? Here's a man who has been sold to slavery twice. And now he's in the second slavery bit of it. And you say he's prosperous. He just entered Potiphar's house. Then when you read further, it says that because God was with him.
Okay, what does that mean?
I'm coming. Because God was with him, everything that he did in Potiphar's house prospered. The presence of God means that God doesn't mean that he, all along his life, from the time that he had those dreams, he was following God's purpose.
He was obedient.
Obedient to God's purpose. You see, and you see the same thing in the life of Abraham. Go to a place that I will show you. How many of us will be told, go to a place that we don't? You tell me, give me Google Map before I go. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Then you look at even David. All of them, they did not go to God and say that God make me a king of Judah, or even Moses make me a deliverer of the people of Israel. But when the call came, they were obedient. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And Joseph's, that's how I got to understand what prosperity is. And it led me to develop what I call the PPP principle.
Now, Captain, so in prosperity, I'm just positing something for you to check with me whether I'm right. So in prospering, we are having great results.
Yeah.
We are maximizing.
Prosperity means that abundance
Okay.
of richness.
Of richness.
Abundance of richness in time, in treasures, and also in talent. And Jesus said in John 10:10, I have come so that you must have life.
And have the more abundantly.
Not just have life, but more abundantly. The person who follows and does the things, prospering with Christ, everything he does it in abundance.
And he is that obedient person.
Because God always gives me more than he needs. Because prosperity is not, or the wealth that comes with prosperity, it's not in a vacuum. God makes us prosperous so for one reason only, so that we can be generous. We can put things in his tithes, we can put in Malachi, we can put it in his storehouse. We can also use our talent to give gifts, like colonials did in Acts 10. And even in 1 Corinthians, we are told that Paul says that at the end of every week, put aside something. That is what prosperity, that's what God makes it possible that we can fulfill these things. So prosperity is not in a vacuum. So when people look at prosperity in the secular world, okay, you use it for yourself.
Yes.
And that could lead you into several temptations.
And I remember, you see, the Bible says life does not consist in the abundance of things that a man has.
Precisely.
So for us Christians, whatever you have, as you maximize it,
It's
for
to
the
have it and to
benefits,
give it away.
give it away.
Yeah.
Set a good example for others to follow.
It's to give it away. Because imagine, there's a story in James. Somebody comes at night and knocks on your door and he says that I'm hungry. And he says, go, God bless you. Fine. But the fact of the matter is that if you are walking in that God's prosperity, you will not buy one piece of bread. You will always buy 2 or 3 loaves of bread in case somebody comes and knocks on the door at night. It is easy to say that I don't have it, but that's fine. You don't have it, so you can't give. But you could have made provision.
I hear in the old days, my parents told me that their mothers always had enough food.
My mother will always leave food aside. When we have eaten and we say it's not enough, also, those days there was no telephone, so when somebody's coming, they won't call you. My mother will always leave surplus in case somebody comes from that. And so that when the person comes and he says that I am hungry, it's not a question you tell him that God bless you. God bless you doesn't fill his stomach. See, so you can live your life by being Armstrong, or you can live your life by being abundant.
Oh, that's great.
You know, and it's really so. If you are the kind of person who wants to live an abundant life, then God will always find prosperity in your walk with God to make sure that you have enough to give to other people.
I'm beginning to understand this concept because somebody told me the history of Dokono Kenke. And he told me, he said, look, etymologically at the word Dokono. Or say, Oba or Donukunu. He has always something prepared.
Absolutely.
And that's something
and
prepared.
it's comfort food.
Thank you. It's not that the husband has come impromptu that he's going to prepare, she's going to prepare anything. The Dokono is already there. And you just hit it. And so I think, oh, Captain, you are unfolding something great that we all need to think, concentrate, and practice on. So we are just about taking a break. And not so soon, but we'll take a break sometime as we keep on talking. So now, prosperity and wealth.
Yeah.
You mentioned something which I wanted to comment about, but it just, flashed out of my mind. You said prospering in wealth has great benefits to that extent.
Yeah.
Yes, to that extent. And it's not just for you. Sometimes secularly, we think so much that you have shows to the world that you are great, you are rich. But your richness is in the essence of provision for other people.
Absolutely. You see, and I have been conditioned in my lifestyle, I've been conditioned by, I served World Vision as Global Audit Director, first as Finance Director.
Global Audit
Director. Responsible for almost about 95 countries.
Yeah.
Okay. But I served in West Africa, in Francophone West Africa, as Finance Director. And the thing, when I learned about, the reason why I joined Full Gospel World Vision was when I learned about how it started. It started with the founder called Bob Pierce, who after the Korean War, a journalist, saw a little girl sitting outside with no parents. And so she took this girl to an orphanage. When he got there, they told him that they could not admit the girl because there was not enough money to look after her. So he had $5 in his pocket.
Bob Pierce?
Yeah. And he gave that. And he went back to the U.S. to ask friends to contribute for the upkeep of the girl. That's how World Vision started. That $5 in 2019, $5, one country in South Korea in 1953. In 2019, World Vision spent $2.96 billion in 100 countries.
Wow.
Okay. And it is driven by what the prayer that we all taught, that Bob Pierce taught, is that let my heart be broken by the things that break the heart of God.
Could you repeat that again?
Let my heart be broken by the things that break the heart of God. Passion.
Okay.
And I wrote a book about it, purpose and passion and calling and all those things. Okay. We need to identify the reason we are created. There's a reason why we are created. And normally when I do seminars, the first question I ask is, do you know the life you were born to live?
So you tend to be asking what kind of purpose that God...
For everyone to ask everybody.
Is that the same thing that Rick Warren has been doing?
Purpose-driven life. Exactly. You see, and the focus of all this prosperity I'm talking about is that one of the things that Rick Warren said was that you are made for missions. Proverbs 11:30. He who wins souls is wise.
Oh, okay.
That is why God created us. And it follows on to the Great Commission. that was sealed by Jesus. That is all, our whole life. Every day in our life is about to seek those who are lost. And therefore, World Vision's seeking money from all over the world, $3 billion a year, is to make a difference in the lives of 30 million people, including 13 million children annually.
And this program started in 1953?
1953. It's in its 70th year.
Wow, still going strong.
Still going strong. And I had a privilege to serve them as in charge of stewardship, in charge of director of audit.
For how many years?
3 years. I served 2 years as a finance director and 3 years as a audit director.
Is Bob Pierce still alive?
No, he died a long time ago. But his spirit still lives.
Okay.
Because, that prayer that he prayed, let my heart be broken by the things that break the heart of God. That was what brought Jesus to this dark world. That is what makes us into evangelists. That is what makes us go into places. I went to Mauritania for the same purpose, in a comfortable life, left a comfortable life in London, and went to live in the desert. Okay. So
when you were in Mauritania, was slavery still being practiced?
Slavery had been stopped was stopped in 1982. I was there in 1995. But the evidence was still there. The slaves refused to go because there was economic consequences and they couldn't sustain their lives, so they stayed.
Captain, we'll continue from there, this point. Mauritania, the Mauritania point. And we're taking a break and come back. And just as I said, we'll continue from that point.
With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians. With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians.
You're welcome back to Let's Talk About, a chat show on digital television, Facebook and YouTube. The handle, as always, Trinity United Church Legon. And we have Captain retired Sam here with us. And Captain, you were talking about the Mauritania experience.
Yeah.
Yes, if you can continue from where you left off.
I left a very comfortable lifestyle in the UK. I was, local preacher for a series of churches. Family was with me. I was head of prayer warriors. I was doing a lot of Bible study, a lot of things. But I felt there was always something else that I needed to do. I wanted, again, the 12 hours. The 24 hours, is it enough? So I decided that I needed a place or an environment where I needed to have an environment where I could synergize spiritual attributes with professional attributes. And World Vision seemed to be the right place. When I did it, when I made the choice, at the time, it seemed like it was my own decision that I made. But I've just finished writing my memoirs, and I could see the hand of God in all that. The decision was not really mine, but I was being led into that. And that time in Mauritania has become what I call my median desert experience, like
Median desert experience.
Like Moses. When Moses left, Moses ran away from Egypt. He went to the desert for 40 years. And that's where God trained him and schooled him and appeared to him. And I had a similar experience because the Mauritanian experience almost led to my death. I was actually dead for 48 minutes.
What happened?
Evangelism. I was doing evangelism, and I was sent to a Juju man to kill me. It's a long story, but long story short, that is it is part of the occupational hazard of doing this kind of work in this kind of environment. I survived that. Not only me, but two of my boys also were very close to death.
The boys were your assistants?
My sons.
Oh, your sons, okay.
Yeah. So we almost paid a very heavy price for that. But that is the choice that we face. It comes with hazards. And when you look at, Mark 10 that I'll speak about later on, persecution is always a part of this prosperity that God gives us. Okay. So, later on, when I started to write my book on purpose and passion, what I call the, from purpose to peace and prosperity, it became clear to me that I read about how God makes provision for us when we go to fulfill God's purposes in the places where He sends us. Abraham is an example. Joseph is also an example. But the ones that I studied that I like to use a lot is Elijah. In First Kings 17, Elijah caused a drought. God sends him to Brook Kerith for ravens to feed him. When the brook dried up, God sent him to the widow of Zarephath. Now, this is the
Captain,
God.
sorry for the interruption, but if you need to send in your comments or questions on WhatsApp, the number is 0501 57 9996. It must be on your screen. 0501 57 9996. Send in your comments or questions, and then Captain would look at them. So please continue.
So the God who was able to give manna and quail in the desert can't give Elijah when the brook dried up? He could. He could easily have given him food there. But he sent him to Zarephath and said, I have asked the widow there to feed you. Provision.
Why do you think God did that?
I'm coming. You see at the end.
Okay.
So he goes there, and he goes and meets this lady, and he says that, make some bread for me because I'm hungry. And he said, I've got my last piece of flour and oil. I'm going to make it for me and my children, my child to eat, and then we'll die. He said, use it for me first. Provision. So God sends him there in the famine. He goes there, and the lady provides for him. And eventually what happens is that on another visit, the son of the widow dies. And Elijah raises him from death. And what the woman said was that, oh, man of God, now I know the word from your mouth is the truth. Here is God sending Elijah to a Gentile city. Zarephath is a Gentile city. Not a city of... there to be able to give a message of hope. So it will seem as if God said, go, I've asked the widow to feed you. But really, it was to show God's glory by raising the son of the widow to life. And I learned something about if we follow God's purpose in the places where God sends us, our provision is always waiting for us there.
Which lends credence to Romans 8:28. All things work together for good.
Absolutely.
To those who love God and are called according to His purpose.
Absolutely. We worry ourselves with sometimes when I speak to in full gospel environment, I ask the question, what keeps you awake at night? Most people will spill out all provisional items, favor, money, visa, children, salary, this. Nobody talks about the purpose of God. And if I were to ask the same thing of this church, I'll get the same answer.
You mean Trinity United Church?
Yeah. I've done it in so many churches.
So, Captain, may I ask you what is your purpose in life?
What's my purpose?
Yes.
To fulfill, to make a difference everywhere I go. To make a difference. So when I go to a place, even if the place is A, I try to make it A+.
So to improve upon your situation?
Everywhere I go. Everybody that I meet, I try to improve them, either individually or corporately. So I'm looking for ways in which, you see, the world is so full of darkness.
How did you get to know your purpose in life?
Then I've been through a lot. My book is coming out next year. And it has 15 testimonies of God's interventions in my life. These are death-defying interventions. you tend to ask the question, therefore, why have you kept me alive? I almost died at the age of 2. They almost buried me alive.
They almost did what?
Buried me alive.
Buried?
Yeah. At the age of 5, I was almost drowning in the Odo River, and a hand pulled
In
me
Accra,
out.
here?
Yeah, at Abraka. At the age of 18, I fell into a river in Logbatota where everybody dies. I'm the only one in the history of the village, and since then, who has fallen and never and came out alive. So when these things happen to you, you ask the question.
You didn't mention the juju thing.
That one came later on.
Later on, okay.
This was when I was, this was 1968. The juju one came in 1996.
In Mauritania?
Mauritania. Other things have happened in between. You see, so when these things happen to you, you sit down one day and ask yourself, why me? What have I done to deserve all these things? And in that kind of conversation, all right, you tend to have revelations about exactly what it is. And the last revelation, see, what God does is that he shows you your portrait. Look at Gideon. He says, you are a mighty man of God, valor. Gideon didn't see himself that way.
No.
He told Abraham, look at the stars. I'm going to make your Abraham didn't see him because he was barren. God always shows you what he's going to make you before he does.
So he shows you out of the circumstances that...
He showed me out of the
takes you through.
circumstances. And even the last time he showed me, the last time he showed me was in Las Vegas, in a hotel room in Las Vegas, about
In
the
the
future
US?
nature. In the US, about the future nature of mine.
How did he show you? In a vision?
In a vision. And when I challenge, not challenge, like Moses said.
You ask questions?
Yeah, you ask questions. Say, how can that be? And he took me back to things that he said before that have actually happened. Okay, just like when Mary said, Mary was told that you have been favored. He said, well, how can that be? So he said, it's like, why do you doubt me? Haven't I done this before? And he gave me the examples for me to believe. And the next morning, when I open, usually when I'm doing devotions, I just open the Bible to a place. And next morning when I opened the Bible, it was there. Acts 13, set aside for me, Paul and Barnabas, for the task that I have.
So it was more or less a confirmation?
Yeah. The year later, I had a letter confirming that part of that. Okay, so the point I'm trying to make is that it shows you the evidence before you actually live it. And he did that. He did that to Joseph when he was a young boy, 11 years old. He showed him the sun and the moon and the stars were bowing. The stars were bowing down to him. Okay, so then what God does is that he focuses your mind. If he's going to make you a king and he focuses your mind to be a king, you wouldn't want to do stupid things that will bring you down from the kingship, would you?
Isn't that also a similar situation that David was in?
Absolutely. David is another example.
He hardly knew that he was going to be king.
But he knew within himself. The man, when they challenged him, he said, but I killed a bear.
Okay.
Okay? If you are 11-year-old.
That is in the contention with Goliath.
No, before, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he went there and he told his brothers and he said, why are you interested in finding out about this Philistine? And, just go and look after the sheep. And they were angry that he had left the sheep and he's come to the place. But he knew within himself. You see, he knew within himself that God has actually shown him the kind of greatness that he was potentially able to. And the same thing happened to Joseph as well. So when all those temptations were coming in, okay, he was able to resist it.
And I hear these two personalities, they were in their teens.
Yeah. Joseph was 17.
Yeah.
Okay. So the point I'm trying to make is this, that, look, if you care to know, God has a way of prompting you. See, for me, it came through saving me from death.
Okay.
Until I was old enough to understand. And even it's only recently that when I started writing my memoirs, and I saw the trend that I realized, because the one that happened in Mauritania, I didn't understand it. It took 16 years for me to have the revelation.
You thought it was one of those things?
I thought it was normal. I had malaria, okay? But if they use malaria as the means. It took 16 years for someone who wanted to hire me to do a job here, a World Bank job, $65 million World Bank job, somebody I've worked with in Mauritania, the doctor whom I reported, when I felt that I had malaria, or I was sick, I didn't even know what it was. I've been out of Africa for 14 years at a time. And he told me to take myself to the doctor. When I went there, the doctor told me I had malaria. And I didn't even know what it was. So it was when he came back to try and hire me for this job, we never really came on, that somebody asked a question. You guys seem to know each other. And he said, oh yeah. Then he said, oh yeah, I need to tell you. That lady whom you dismissed from the office for incompetence, she took you to a marabout, a Jeju man.
Oh.
And I said, how do you know? I said, she confessed to me because we were neighbors.
So that person wanted to get rid of you spiritually.
Yeah. You see. So once you come to know these things, you will face these things. And this brings me back to the PPP principle.
Okay.
I left a very good job in the UK to go to Mauritania. And by doing that, I became an expert, which means that money was not an issue. Okay, so God took care of all those things for me to go and do that work in that place. That's the point I'm trying to make. When we follow God's purpose, in the places that He sends us, He makes provision for us. Our prosperity is waiting for us. Okay, so you don't have to worry about what I'm going to eat. That's why He says, look at the lilies in the field.
Or the best of the year.
The best of the year. See, He wants you to concentrate, and that's what He did in the Garden of Eden. The Garden of Eden, God made sure He provided everything Adam was going to need. And the only thing that He told Adam not to touch, that's what Adam touched.
Disobedience.
Which is the bane of our Christian walk. All the people that I've mentioned, Abraham, Joseph, David, Moses, all these people, they didn't pray to be where they are. They obeyed the call when it came. And they paid the price. So when you read Mark 10:10, Jesus had an encounter with a rich young ruler. And He said, go and sell everything and come and give to poor. And the man went home with so silent.
Because the Bible said he had great riches.
Exactly.
Please, sorry, Captain. Please, if you have any comments or questions, send them now on WhatsApp 050-157-9996. It must be on your screen, the number. So you send it in. There's a comment from Ruth Redu. Captain, you are looking sharp.
Thank you, Sister Ruth. Thank you.
Is it because of the glasses that you're wearing? Anyway, thank you very much, Ruth. And then there's a comment from Martin Obing, Reverend Martin Obing, yes, the minister, the head minister, if I might put it that way, of Trinity United Church. Trinity, yes. Thanks for the insight, Reverend says.
Thank you, Osofo.
Yes. And then there's comment by Ben Kwabena Banfu.
Yeah.
Yes. He says, may the good Lord bless us all.
Amen.
Yeah, we are very much appreciative of all your comments. There is no question yet.
Okay.
So, Captain, I seem to be very much interested in your narrative.
Yeah, Mark 10:10.
Yes,
Mark 10:30. So Peter said, Lord, we have left everything to follow you. Just said, he said, no. If you have left homes, you have left fields, you have left brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers, and then the Matthew version also includes wife.
For my sake.
For my sake. I will give you 100 times.
Wonderful.
See? 100 times. In this age. And then the age to come, eternal life. But with persecution.
Okay.
There is always occupational hazard. All these people that I've mentioned, they all went through occupational hazards.
And I think these persecution, these negativities come because humans as we are likely to forget. And couldn't that be reminders?
Even if we don't do it, the devil will put those tests.
Okay.
The devil will put those things in us. I mean, I went to Mauritania. The first time I got there, I got an letter card that said that you will not leave this country alive.
From who?
I don't know. The letter disappeared after I read the letter.
Oh, air letter card. That's
Old
yeah.
letter card.
Some of us.
This
might
was
not-
1995.
Some of us might not understand air letter card.
Okay, this was a letter.
Yeah,
This was
okay.
1995.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have come to me. Spiritual warfare has always been part of my life. Everywhere I go. In fact, my mother's last words to me before she died, she said, me back up now. Baby, we could be a no bosom because that has been the nature of my life. Always, always from one spiritual warfare to another and another. Not because of what the things that I do. Okay. Most of the time, through even the good that I do to people.
Captain, you said something that is very, very important. You said these personalities that we talk about, David, Joseph, didn't pray for any of such great things that God did with them.
No, they didn't.
So was that ingrained in their DNA?
No, they just obeyed.
Through obedience?
Yeah.
God saw their obedience and credited them.
God told Abraham, leave your parents, the heir of the Chaldeans, and go to a place that I will show you. He didn't even know that it was in Canaan. See, and that's why that's what the Bible says, that his belief in God was credited to him as righteousness. Okay. Moses certainly would not have prayed to go back to Egypt because he was a murderer being sought for. So why would he go back? And he gave every reason not to go back. He wasn't qualified, he couldn't speak, he couldn't do this. All because he had skeletons in his closet and he didn't want to go back. So, Joseph, the same thing. Joseph knew exactly. And look at what Joseph went through. First they wanted to kill him, but God kept him alive. See, and I relate to Joseph's situation a lot in the sense that my whole life I've come so close to death, has never been far away from me. But I have survived up to now. So naturally, there must be a reason. There must be a reason. And in that search, it leads you to know that this is the things that you are supposed to be doing. There must be a reason.
Okay, there's something that I'm catching. That out of all these predicaments, if I might put it that way, God revealed, or God, as it were, opened your inner eye to recognize his greatness.
Yeah.
And the things that he wanted or wants you to do.
Yeah.
Am I right by saying that?
Absolutely. No, and that's what a prosperity is all. That's what I'm talking about. My understanding of prosperity is Genesis 39, verses 2 and 3. God was with Joseph. He was prosperous because God was with Joseph. And everything that he did prospered. And when I look at my life, in so many things, in my book, in one chapter, I write about 60 years of fulfillment, of excellence. And I see that all the things that I've achieved, it's not just average things, but everywhere that I've been, I have done, that prosperity has carried me to do something extraordinary. In every aspect of my life, whether be it Full Gospel. Full Gospel, for the first time, I was able to bring, by God's grace, to bring business money from outside into Full Gospel. It's never been done in 45 years of Full Gospel.
In Ghana?
Yeah. And for the first time, we did a national convention and made a profit. It's never been done before.
All because God has shown you the purpose of your life, to make a difference wherever you go.
All because for me, I believe that God, prosperity is about God being with you. So that if God is with you, he doesn't want to be ashamed. Not you. It's not, shame is not about you. It's about him. Okay? So, the Psalm, he says that, lead us into righteousness for your name's sake. So he does things, if he's with you, for his name's sake.
So can we stretch it a little bit on and say that God is with all of us?
God is all of us, but then it comes with obedience.
Okay. That makes a difference.
Because
so now,
obedience in fulfilling his purpose will take you there to the place, and it's that place where your provision is waiting for you.
okay, we'll take a short break, Captain, and then come back. You're still watching Let's Talk About on YouTube and Facebook. Today we're talking about prospering in wealth, and Captain Andy Sam is here with us. A short break, we'll be back soon.
With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians. With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians. With the growing challenges of life in light of
Fast. Today we're here with Captain Andy Sam, looking at the topic prospering in wealth. Now, comment by Douglas Ebenezer Awuku Manukre. I have to put on my glasses to be able to read from the screen so well.
It's
Yes.
from Carolina, isn't it?
Yeah. So Douglas,
Eh?
Douglas. Yeah. This is by a comment by Douglas Ebenezer Awuku Manukre. God bless you, Captain. The knowledge you have imparted upon me has been a great asset throughout my career. Do you know him?
I know him very well. I brought him to Full Gospel. It was one of our executives when we started. I started a chapter at South Legon.
Oh, that's great. Then there's another comment by Vida Kwapon Ekufu. Captain, your faith is great. Thank you for sharing these insights with us. Looking forward to reading your book.
Thank you.
What's your book about?
It's called His Purpose, My Destiny.
Oh, great. Great.
Basically, whatever we are destined to do has got to synergize with God's purpose for our lives.
When is it coming out?
It's on the review. Hopefully by Easter we'll launch it.
Oh, okay. All right. We'll be looking out for it, just as Vida said.
Thank you.
Yes. And, okay, we'll continue. If there are any more comments or questions, we will look at them later on. But, Captain, just as Manukri and another person, I've forgotten the name, said, you're expounding and expatiating on great insights.
There's a Reverend Obing said.
Okay, yes, Reverend Obing said. You know, and you have gotten to know, or you've got to know your purpose in life through the things that you have gone through. And out of obedience, just as David and Joseph also got to know. And then that seemed to expand the frontiers of what God wants you to do. For me, that's very critical and very, very important. So, time always is of essence. And just when it's becoming interesting, then time is about finishing for the program. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
But if you can just do a summary
Yeah.
of what we are talking about today, we'll be glad to hear from you.
Yeah. See, we as individual Christians.
Oh, there's a comment, sorry,
Okay.
Captain, from Eunice Araba Shandorf. And it says, Father, help us trust and obey your word. Thank you very much, Eunice Araba Shandorf.
Yeah. We are soaked into fellowship. We are all ingrained into a fellowship. And when we talk about prospering in wealth, it is about how we see our role within that fellowship. That fellowship or church has great strategies, has great missions to perform. And each mission needs money. Like as I said, Full Gospel, they spend almost $3 billion, every year on things like that. So the members have got to link their purposes or their lifestyle into it. You see, you cannot serve God without serving God's people. It's impossible. I say that again. You can only serve God by serving God's people. And therefore, we must look for ways in which we should serve rather than being asked to serve.
Because if not, it will be out of compulsion.
It is out of control. But you see, we deny ourselves the growth and what God can do with us by looking to our comfort, by looking to our comfort zones, by looking to the persecution, by looking to the difficulties that we are going to face. And therefore, we fail to live lives that takes us to test, that gives us testimonies. See, many of us don't have testimonies because we do not place ourselves in situations where we are tested. And it is when you go through those tests that you come to. On my old school platform, there's always argument going on whether there's God and all things like that. And one day somebody asked me, they said, why don't you comment? I said, I don't need to comment. I know where I stand. And I know nobody can convince me.
You think it would be a waste of time
It would be a waste
involved in those things?
Because, you see, the Bible even tells us that we should not even indulge in useless arguments.
Okay.
And all I said was that God will show himself to everybody when the time comes. See, God will show himself. I have been through all these things. At the time when I was going through that, who was there? Only God was there. So there's nobody who can convince me otherwise. So everybody you need to put yourself in a situation where you actually get tested. And therefore you can give testimony. And your testimony is what is going to change other people's lives. Not just by the word.
But by your deeds.
By your deeds as well.
Captain, it's been so insightful. It's been so revealing. And what you have shared with us out of the great experiences that you've had with World Vision, which was founded by Bob Pierce, who is no more, and the kind of work we've done in many places of the world, from London to Mauritania to Ghana, and presently the things that you're doing. We hope to see and read from that book. You said it's coming out soon, February?
By Easter, hopefully.
Oh, Easter, hopefully. Yes. So we're looking out for that book to read as a monument of God's imprint upon your life.
My reviewer tells me that it's a bestseller.
Oh, really?
That's what he tells me.
Wow.
So,
Why did he say so?
no, tell he's read it. He's reading the book.
Okay.
And just after 5 chapters, there's 18 chapters. So
So it's about how many pages?
400 and something pages.
400.
That's A4 size.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
How long did it take you to write all that?
Oof, I started 17th. I started when my granddaughter was born, 17th of March 2020. And COVID allowed me sitting at home doing nothing. It's a book that I've been wanting to write since 1995.
Since 2020?
Since 1995, I've been wanting to write a book. But it's taking me almost about 2 years.
2 years.
To complete. Because I took a lot of breaks.
Okay. All right. So finally, like Paul would say, he says finally, and it was never ending. Yeah. But finally of the great finale.
The grace of
God.
God.
Yes, just in a sentence, just close us up, Captain.
You cannot serve God without serving God's people. It's impossible. You must look to serve. You must, not because somebody is asking you, but you must make it your purpose to serve. You must go look. We carry the light, and we must take the light to the darkness.
And that's one of the ways that you can prosper in wealth.
Absolutely.
You know, you make maximum benefit of what God has given you. It's not for you, as it were, but for the whole world.
You sow into other people's lives.
That has been, let's talk about, a platform for discussing issues that bother all of us, Christians, non-Christians, on Trinity United Church
program on YouTube and Facebook. So that's how we end. Next week, Wednesday, 7 p.m., God willing, we'll be here again. Do have a lovely night. Bye.